Welcome back. You're still tuned into MF Corner. Well, planning for retirement can be overwhelming with so many options to choose from. We do have government schemes like EPFO, NPS, and there are, of course, mutual funds which just focus on retirement, but each come with their own risk and rewards. So let's understand how to balance that with growth, take advantage of tax benefits, and adjust your investments over time. These are some important things to consider while planning for your retirement as well. To help us understand more about this, we have with us Mrin Agarwal, who is financial educator and director at FinSafe India. Mrin, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining in. You know, sometimes the question is, if I want to plan for my retirement, is mutual fund the way to go, or do we go ahead with EPFO and NPS? And that also has seen so many changes now, right? Allowing for 100% equity investments as well. So how can one decide between the safety of EPFO, the potential that we are seeing in mutual funds or NPS? How do they make that decision?
So good afternoon, Sonal and Vinny, and it's lovely to be here today on the show. So I think, one of the things that we should all keep in mind is that the retirement corpus is only getting bigger, right? And that's really driven by the lifestyle choices that we have. So, when you work out the retirement corpus, for most people, it's going to work out anywhere between 5 to 10 crores. Now, while the EPF is a great instrument, it gives you a limited return and hence it can only get you to a point, right? But, so if we have to reach these bigger numbers, we will need to add equities to the portfolio. And I'll just give you a small example as to how this can actually have a huge impact, right? So, for example, if you have a 30-year-old who has 1 lakh rupees of expenses and wants to retire at 50, okay? So now this person has actually a corpus requirement of 11.5 crores. And if they want to meet it only through the NPS, then they have to pretty much invest around 2 lakh rupees per month. But if the person decides to add equities and go the equity route, then the amount to be invested actually almost halves to about 1.15 lakhs a month, right? So, addition of equities is an absolute must because one, you need to reach that higher corpus. And two, it really helps you in reducing the amount that you need to invest and probably makes it more doable.
Hi, Mrin. Good afternoon. So then what are the checklists or, the checkpoints that I have to watch out for while investing in NPS and mutual funds? Is there anything specific that one should watch out for? Obviously, you mentioned in terms of example, when you go the equity route, then your amount that you have to invest every month does become less. But are there other important factors that one should consider according to their time period or goals, or how should that work?
So I think, when you want to make the choice between NPS and mutual funds, it's really about what do you find easier? Do you want to get into an instrument? This is just from a retirement perspective, I'm saying. Do you want to get into an instrument where all you need to do is invest and then whenever you need the money, it'll come to you as a pension, right? Or, do you want to be more hands-on? Do you want to have more flexibility in terms of ability to withdraw, or also in terms of the ability in terms of what sort of a market cap? Because you see, all this while, if you look at the NPS, it's been restricted to one, you had one scheme in equity, which pretty much was like a large and a mid cap fund, right? But, for example, if you feel, no, I want to put more in mid caps and small caps, then of course you can choose mutual funds. But at the same time, you will need to be disciplined and remain invested. So I think the choice between NPS and mutual funds is really about, do I want somebody to just do it for me and I get that pension? Or would I like to plan it myself and I can remain disciplined?
I take that point. So say if you're talking about NPS, we do have various options here as well, right, Mrin? How much equity should one choose here? And if not this, then why don't you directly go with mutual funds? They're entirely equity.
Well, in the NPS, I would certainly say the 75% equity option. And that's because what happens in NPS is that there is a tapering that happens on the equity allocation. So when you look at, like, there's this auto choice aggressive allocation, in those schemes, the equity allocation at the age of 50 actually drops to 20%. Whereas when you look at the active equity option, it's only after 50 that the equity tapering starts happening. And so what happens, see, when you're investing for the long term, one of the reasons you choose equities is because you're getting this compounding line like return, and that will basically kick in towards the end itself. So, at that point in time, you actually don't want to have lower amount of equity, right? So I would say choose the option with the highest equity allocation.
Mrin, in terms of for subscribers, after this new multiple scheme framework that's coming from PF RDS, how should they be, what should they be doing? How should they work around that?
So, okay, so what's changed? There are new schemes that have come in, and these are like multi-asset funds, to state it very simply, because you can have different asset classes, you can have different market caps, so you can go beyond top 200 companies and stuff like that. So it's like having a multi-asset fund. Earlier on, as I said, you had like one equity fund which could only do equities. And of course, you could choose the allocation, right? So now you have these new schemes that have come. I would actually have a wait and a watch approach on this right now, because, I think one of the biggest benefits on NPS was actually its simplicity, right? And of course, there has been some very good work, research on this as well, wherein it is shown that, like for investors, once you give them easy choices, they don't have that choice paralysis. So, I just feel that, these new schemes that have come in, now investor has to start thinking, okay, which one do I go in for? How do I compare these schemes? And it just makes it a little bit more complicated. So I would have a very wait and watch approach to this. The other thing is also that everybody's talking about the lock-in coming into 15 years, which is great. But the point being that at the end of the 15 years, it's not like you can withdraw 100% of the money. You're still going to have 40% getting into the annuity plan. So the 60-40 rule is still going to be there. So I would just say that, weigh all the pros and cons. See if you want to get into a higher risk scheme and you want to get into a sort of a multi-asset sort of an allocation, then probably you can look at these schemes. But it shouldn't just be because of the 15-year lock-in. So weigh all the pros and cons. And I think you can wait and watch the performance for some time before really jumping in.
Take that point. And how much should the NPS tax edge matter? Should it be a combination of the two retirement schemes by the government?
Well, salary don't have a choice in any case, right? So yeah, in any case, NPS has the advantage even in the new tax regime, wherein, for salaried at least, there is that deduction under 80CCD2 that's allowed. So certainly take advantage of it.
Okay. And Mrin, just the last word in terms of obviously for, when you have these options that are available for you, right? Whether it's an NPS, EPFO, mutual fund, how would you be looking at it? What is the better option and how would you rank these?
Well, I mean, as I said, the EPF, you don't have a choice. If you're salaried, you do need to have it. And I still think it's a great investment, because getting 8.8% plus tax-free return on your own is not very easy. Again, from the mutual funds and NPS perspective, as I said, if you want more flexibility, you feel that you can choose schemes better, and you want the flexibility to plan your retirement when you're planning for post-retirement, you want that flexibility, then I think go in for the mutual funds. You have a whole set of retirement funds that are available. You can also choose a regular mutual fund. So you have a lot of schemes available there. And again, I'll say that if you feel that, okay, I find all this like really difficult, I don't know which scheme to choose, I don't know what to do at retirement and stuff like that. And we must remember that the pension rates are actually quite good. They're between 6.5% to 8%. So the pension rates are not bad, honestly. So if you feel that, I want everything planned for me and I just want to do it the easy way, then probably NPS active equity is the option for you.
And always there's the tax benefit, right? You can get additional deduction that would come by for you under 80CCD. And that is something, if you are, of course, opting for the old tax regime, it would be helpful for you. But Mrin, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us today and making sense of so many products that are available for an investor when it comes to retirement. And of course, we've spoken about the changes that have come by, or of course, the proposal that has come by from EPFO, because withdrawal has been a big issue. And now they have tried to address that as well. So we'll we'll watch out for what the changes are. But for now, we'll do one thing. We'll take our audience's leave or viewers' leave on this edition of MF Corner. But stay tuned for Closing Bell to take you through the last hour of trade.